Welcome, everyone. This is Rebecca Smith-Aldridge of the Mid-Hudson Library System, and this is one of our Engage webinar series programs. Today, we're joined by Julie Kelsel-Dempsey from the Highland Public Library. Julie is going to be speaking to us about a number of things, including how they successfully passed a multi-million-dollar referendum for a new building, things that have added up to her being chosen as a trusted advisor for our Increasing Circulation Incubator project, as well as some of the work that's been done at the county level in Ulster County to produce the first countywide mobile app available in our region, which is pretty cool. So Julie's put together some slides to give you some visuals and help demonstrate some of the stuff that she's been working on over the years, which is pretty cool. And we're really excited to have Julie today. So Julie, thank you so much for making the time to record this session with us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Rebecca. Thank you for asking.
Of course. So Julie, before we jump into some of the tactics you've been using, would you mind describing your library and your community for everyone listening?
Sure. Highland Public Library is located in the Mid-Hudson Valley, directly across the river from Poughkeepsie, just outside of New Paltz. So we're a school district public library, and we serve the taxpayers not only in Highland and the town of Lloyd, which some people don't realize, but we also have Clintondale and parts of Plattekill, New Paltz, and West Park, which can be a little confusing sometimes for people. And a large portion of our service area is rural with farms. Agriculture is a big part. But we also have a significant number of residents who moved up from New York City and Westchester, and the people who also live along the river. So the expectations and needs of each group is as diverse as they are, and it can sometimes bring us challenges to make sure that we listen to all of them and meet the needs of all of them.
Cool. You actually have such a big area. You have two buildings, right? You have a branch library as well as the main library?
Yes, we have a branch out in Clintondale, and excuse me, one of the old Quaker church actually is what we're in out there. The meeting house from, I don't remember the year, but it's the old meeting house out by the former Quaker church. It's now the Friends Church.
So that's the Clintondale branch. And tell people a little bit about the building you're currently in and why you decided to do something about that.
The building we're in now was built 1870s. It was a house. It was a beautiful house, but it was not a library. We've been in the building since 1930. And at one point, we actually were just in the downstairs. The top floor was a clinic, and then in the 70s we took over the entire building. Being a house, it was not built structurally. It's not designed to hold the weight of books and the stacks, so they have tried reinforcing it over the years, but the floors are a little tilted, chairs roll outdoors sometimes, and it's cracking. It's just the stress of the books are just too much for the building. So and it's very, because it is a house, it's all separate rooms, so it's hard to see what's going on. Like right now, I have no idea what's going on in the rest of the building because my office is way up at the top on the other side. So a newer building where we can actually see everything will be such a big improvement for us.
So you've been working for years to find a solution to your facility issues. I know I went to look at properties with you over the course of probably, I hate to say it, but it feels like the past decade, at least for me, and I know you were doing it much longer than that. So, and then you finally found a property you thought was the right way to go and held a referendum that the first time out didn't pass, which was a huge blow. But one of the things I really admired about you is you said, that's not the end of this story. We're going to try again. And you really were successful the second time out. So I bet this is a great story that I think the listeners would love to hear, how you turned that around and built buy-in for such a big project in your community.
It was hard, especially because after the first one, and they always tell you, don't take it personal or whatever, but you've put so much into that referendum and into the process, and then to lose by such a small amount, it was 91 votes, that you do take it personal. And we had board members at the time who just had had enough. They weren't going to come back. They felt they were being attacked by the community, and they didn't want to go through it again. But meanwhile, the staff and I were still in this building, and we knew we had to move forward. We could not continue to stay here. So as those board members resigned and left, we worked on getting board members who the community saw more as permanent resident. I mean, not that the other ones weren't, but in Highland, if you haven't lived here your entire life, it doesn't matter. You could be here 30 years and you're still an outsider. So we worked on getting more, the former superintendent of the school district, former kindergarten teacher who either everybody had or your children had, and then the only woman to ever serve on the town board of Highland, and she served for 20 years. So getting those people on, and also a young man, well, 34, who was born and raised in Highland. So now the community saw the board more as real Highland residents, I guess is what they would call them. I didn't, but so they worked on that. And those board members also had strong ties to the community because of the long time they've lived here and their positions. And they were that helped with the community members to see that, to help us get a yes vote to go out. We regrouped after, we listened to what they thought, why it went down. One of the things was they felt we weren't out and transparent enough, so we made sure we hit every group. We talked to everybody. We tried to give them more of a feeling that they were having input. We would ask what they wanted to see. We'd come back the next month and say, all right, this is what you asked for. This is how we've incorporated it. And one example is we had one woman who was concerned that the parking lot on the new building, the lights would be shining into her house because she lives behind. So I sat with her before the meeting, talked to her about her concerns, and then I talked with Paul, our architect, and we actually redesigned the parking lot so that it doesn't go down there and the trees will screen her so the headlights won't shine. So it was just doing those small things to make sure the community felt we were answering their questions and listening to them, and also having the total bond $2 million lower, because that was another thing. The first project was 6.8, and they felt that was too high. So this one was 4.85, and they felt we listened to them enough that it went well. So
it sounds like you spent a lot of time building support, like that you were looking for new trustees that had wide connections and deep connections in the community, and that you really took your time to invite people into your process. So they felt really included and heard and responded to during it, which I guess it sounds like that translated into getting the vote out when it finally came to the day of the referendum.
Yes, it was. And it was hard. We would have like to have had more support, especially from the town board members. We did have some support from them, but it did translate into and also what I found when the first one failed, there were a lot of supporters who just couldn't believe that you would vote against the library, and so that failure made them more vocal as well, and so they came out and gave us more support to make sure we would definitely have the yes vote out. We have residents in Vineyard Commons, which is a 55 and older community, and they were very instrumental in making sure that this budget passed, as well as our friends group.
That's really cool. It really mobilized your base of supporters who just assumed everyone was like them, and kind of reminded them that you can never make assumptions that other people know what you know. So that's pretty cool that it helped you get back to basics in some ways too, with the people who you would assume are there to support you.
Right. Yes, it did.
So that's great. Not forgetting the people who are kind of your inside group that they also need to be spoken to and mobilized when it comes to a big effort like this.
Right.
It's an awesome success story, and congratulations again. I know I say that almost all the time, but it's such a huge win for you and for all libraries in the Hudson Valley. Great work.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that definitely wasn't the first success that you had, because you've been doing a great job at your library all along, and all you've been lacking is that space to just, take it to the next level. And that was recognized last year when Tom Sloan, our executive director, isolated you and asked you to be a trusted advisor for our special project last year, which was helping libraries think about how to increase circulation of the physical items in their library, as well as the digital collections. And you immediately said yes, you were willing to share your expertise of why you were bucking the trend and seeing your circulation go up when other people were seeing their circulation go down, sometimes double digits in multiple years. So first of all, that was awesome that you stepped up. Thank you very much for doing that. But I wanted to talk today in the webinar a little bit about why you were picked as a trusted advisor. What were some of the philosophies you've been doing all along that you think contribute to that success you have in the area of circulation?
Well, I think one of the things I focused on as you mentioned, our space is limited here, and we also have no parking. And I've heard time and time again from people, well, I would have stepped by, but there was no parking. So I thought of reaching out to the people, especially now with ebooks and all the e-resources. People don't need to come into the building as much. So I tried to think of a way to get those people more involved and borrowing materials. So I worked with Tom Sloan and Robert Drake, and we came up with online registration patron cards that allow people, once they fill out and they're entered into the system, it allows them to borrow any e-resource without having to come in and pick up the physical card. We let them know at the time that if they do want to come in and borrow physical materials, they will have to bring in a photo ID when they come get their card. And most of them do end up coming into the library and getting their library card, so which is a benefit. I hadn't even considered. I thought most of them would not, but that didn't seem to be the case. They do want that card once they get it. Once the process is easy to get it, then they will come in eventually and pick it up. So that's gone pretty well. Then we have 4 assisted living centers locally, and we reached out to them. And again, I have staff who are great, and they are willing to go above and beyond and do these programs. They come to me with ideas, and I just say, sure, go ahead. So I can't take all the credit on this one. So we went out. I had a staff member who was willing to go to the different assisted living centers and see if we could set up some type of program where the residents would be able to have library service. And 2 of the 4, and we're still working to try to get the other 2, agreed to it. So we go in, the staff member goes in 1 day a week, usually Thursday mornings. We rotate which one we go to, and she sets up in a room. The residents there can come in, they borrow the materials, and return the other one. So it's working well. It probably serves, I would say, maybe 20 to 25 people, which isn't a lot, but it's 20 to 25 more people that wouldn't otherwise have it. And I'm hoping the more we do it, the more residents will be able to get involved in that process as well.
I love how you decided to bring the library to where people already were, whether it be online or in one of these facilities in your community, rather than thinking that everyone always has to come to the library. That's, I think, a great example of how you can break down barriers and help more people be a part of what you have to offer.
Yes, I agree. And sometimes, like I said, it's hard for people to come to this structure. I'm hoping in the new building it'll be easier for people. But there are people who, especially here, if you have any disability, we are not we're not ADA compliant. We have stairs, we don't have ramps, the aisles are very small. It is not an easy building to get around in. So anyway, we can reach out to those members of the community and help them. It's just beneficial for us all. The library, it becomes this wonderful community giving center of the community that people respect, because we do try to help them and reach out to them. And the other one is the homebound service that we offer, where again, a staff member noticed there were a couple of our patrons who stopped coming in for whatever, they had some physical problems and couldn't make it in, so she decided to put together this program to go out to them, and that's done quite well as well. She has quite a few that she sees. She does runs probably several times a week, actually. But again, we're reaching out to those people who otherwise would not have access to us.
So it sounds like one of the silver linings of having such a challenging facility was that you guys have gotten very creative and maybe have thought outside of those, 4 walls much sooner than a lot of other libraries did, which has contributed to your success in terms of making sure people are engaging with your collection and the e-resources that you have to offer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think you're probably right, and even other programs, holding story hours up at the reservoir and things like that to try to go again where the people are.
That's
So
really cool because I've also noticed that you are usually a very early adopter. Whenever we've come up with a new e-resource or a new tech, I know you're the first person I ever saw who had the watch, the mobile watch on. But I wonder too, like that was, I think that technological foresight you've had is part of expanding your ability to reach people where they are because your building has been kind of limiting and you're delivering your services. I noticed you're one of the first libraries that had a pretty spiffy website. You're always at the forefront of discussions at the system table about new e-resources that you know your patrons are really going to like. And you've really had a good focus on tech and e-access as long as I know I've been in the system. And so I'm not too surprised to see that the county that you are the chair of the Directors Association is the first to have a county-wide mobile app.
yes,
So can
we
you
are.
talk to me a little bit about that? How did you guys decide to do this?
But we are fortunate enough to get funding still from our legislators. And what we've done to maintain that funding is to use it. It used to be back 20 years ago, each library got a certain amount of money to just put in their operating. And that was not going to continue. So we felt the best way was to have it just go to every library in the county. We just take the full amount and get something, resources that everybody in the county would have access to. So it helps pay for the databases. And one of the other things with more and more people using smartphones, we felt that it was be beneficial for the county to have a better presence with a mobile app, because that's what everybody's on their phone now. Their computers aren't as popular as their phones, I don't think, anymore, because it's in their pocket. So we looked into different resources. There was Boopsy, and we found another one called Capira, who actually developed the app so it would be called Ulster Libraries, which makes it, I think, easier for people to find. And it has, once you select your library, it has your account information. The library information will show you where the library is and the hours. It gives you the catalog, the event calendars for each library. So I feel it's just one more way to reach out to residents and let them see what libraries have to offer to make it easier for them to get that access to the libraries.
I just love this so much. You're making everyone look good, right? You're making the county look good that their money is going to something that makes the resources even more accessible because the research we're seeing indicates that people below the poverty line, if they do have internet connection, it's usually through a mobile phone. So when you think about trying to access library services, they're not just e-resources on a PC with a beautiful big monitor. A lot of people are, only accessing internet resources through that screen of their mobile phone, which is about the size of an index card. So having something designed for that screen, I think, is so important as we move forward. So bravo, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Has this been a big hit with your patrons?
Yeah, it's had some bugs that we've still been not. I have other libraries in the county have had some problems still, so we haven't had a big rollout yet because we're still trying to get all that working out. But I think our patrons here seem to like using it. But we're hoping once everything gets settled with all the libraries, we'll do a big rollout and big marketing campaign on it, but I think so.
Well, I think it's great. Oh, sorry. I think that's great. It's another example of how you're meeting people where they are, which is often on their phones 24/7. So that's pretty cool.
Yes, right, exactly. Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about what you think is a key to your success at the Highland Library?
I think, like I said, having a staff, the staff comes up with great ideas during our staff meeting. That's one of the things I've done to each staff person. They each get a notebook, and so when we do meet monthly or bi-monthly, if they have any ideas, it's, share your ideas and we'll, implement what we can or try to find a way to make it work. And they come up with great ideas, and I try not to say no to those ideas. I try to encourage them to come in and find a solution to, if they have an idea, right, how can we implement it, and we work together. So I think that's part of it, is just having a staff and then willing to work as a team to get where you want to be, making sure they all know and see the vision of the library and all working towards that goal.
It sounds like that's a theme with you, respecting the wisdom of the crowd, both in your community and in your building with your staff and your board. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Julie. I really appreciate that you took the time today to share a little bit about what you've been working on and what you know works, because I think a lot of what you are doing is so translatable to other libraries in the Hudson Valley and beyond. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Rebecca. Thank you.